As I cruised down the desolate highway in the dead of night, I never imagined that picking up a hitchhiker would lead to one of the most chilling encounters of my life. It was a moonless night, the kind in which shadows danced ominously on the edges of your vision. The radio murmured softly, barely audible over the hum of the engine. The road stretched out endlessly before me. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw him, a lone figure standing by the side of the road, thumb extended hopefully. Against my better judgment, I slowed down and pulled over. The hitchhiker approached, his silhouette cloaked in darkness. "Need a lift?" I called out, my voice tinged with uncertainty. He nodded eagerly, and as he stepped into the dim glow of the headlights, a shiver ran down my spine. There was something off about him, something unsettling. But I pushed aside my unease and unlocked the passenger door. As he settled into the seat beside me, I glanced at his face. His eyes were wide, almost feverish, and a strange grin twisted his lips. I forced a smile and focused on the road ahead, trying to shake off the growing sense of dread. We drove in silence for a while, the only sound being the faint whir of the wheels on the pavement. But then, without warning, he began to hum, a tuneless melody that freaked me out. I stole another glance at him and saw that his eyes were fixed on me, glittering with a manic intensity. "Everything all right?" I asked, my voice trembling slightly. He didn't respond, just continued to stare at me with that unnerving grin. Panic began to bubble up inside me, and I gripped the steering wheel tighter, my heart pounding in my chest. Suddenly, he reached out and grabbed my arm, his grip like a vice. I flinched, but before I could react, he leaned in close, his breath hot against my ear. "You shouldn't have stopped for me," he whispered, his voice dripping with malice. I tried to pull away, but his hold only tightened, his fingers digging into my flesh. My mind raced as I searched for a way out of this situation I got myself into, but before I could formulate a plan, he released me and leaned back in his seat, with the same twisted grin plastered across his face. My mind was racing. I didn't know what to say or do, so I just kept driving. Neither of us said a word. I realized this guy was completely crazy and potentially dangerous, and I needed to get him the hell out of my car. I'm trying to think of something to get him out, and I think I have an idea that just might work. While I'm formulating the plan, I can feel his eyes on me. I slowly turned my head to look at him, bracing myself for his gut-wrenching smile. I don't know how, but his smile was even wider than before. But that wasn't the first thing I noticed when I looked at him. It was the knife he was holding in his hand. The look in his eyes was pure insanity. He spoke. "Pull over and get out. It's my car now." I thought to myself, "No. I'm going to make you beg me to pull over so that you can get out." I remember hearing something like, "To deal with a crazy person, out-crazy them." Now this whole time I haven't reacted to him and I just say, "My girlfriend broke up with me. I'm going to crash this car." And I start driving like a maniac. I floor it and swerve hard to the wrong side of the road. I'm holding my foot to the floor, taking the turns way too fast. I'm all over the road and nearly lose control and go off the road multiple times. But by some miracle, we don't crash. At first, this guy started laughing but quickly went quiet and grabbed onto his seat, holding on for dear life. I suddenly hit the brakes and slowed down as much as I could before pulling the handbrake, coming to a screeching halt. I kid you not. This guy opened his door and jumped out before I even fully stopped. As soon as he was out of my car, I was back on the gas, getting the hell away from that guy. As I was leaving, I heard him yell, "You're crazy, dude." I continued driving and made it home, glad to be far away from that guy. I called the cops and told them what happened. They said they will send a trooper to search for the guy. I never called them back, so I don't know if they ever found the guy. But honestly, I don't care. I just never want to see his deranged smile ever again. This happened in August 2008. To preface, I'm a female. At the time I was 16 and stupid. I was in love with my then boyfriend the way Ariel was 16 and in love with Prince Eric. His parents were split up. He lived with his dad, who was really strict and kinda scary. On the weekends, he stayed with his mom. His mom lived down the street from my aunt and best friend. At night, I would sneak over and we would hang out until the early hours of the morning. Anyway, we got caught. We weren't allowed to see each other. Eventually, both of our parents got over it and conceded that we could see each other at a county fair, with his dad and stepmom supervising. At the fair, my boyfriend Gabe told me he wanted to see me that night. He told me that he was going to walk to my house in the middle of the night. My house is probably 10 miles from his. I told him, "No, you're crazy." Long story short, I decided to walk halfway to meet him. It was probably midnight, full moon, and I'm walking along the street. I had 2 cars stop and ask if I want a ride. I was terrified a cop was going to see me and take me home to my parents. I said, "No, thank you, I'm just going right up here." To both cars because I'm 16 and 125 pounds of no muscle. I meet Gabe finally and walk to his house. Probably because my parents were actually awake at my house and his mom would be asleep. I tell him about the scary cars that stopped and asked if I needed a ride. He asks why didn't I take one of them up on their offer. No one asked him if he needed a ride. He would have taken one. It would have been way faster to meet. We get to his house, make out, hang out, and I eventually decide I need to leave before my parents wake up and notice I'm gone. I try to go to my aunt's, but no one is home, so I start walking. It's summer and about 5 a.m., so it's light out. I decide to take a different back road home. I'm walking along this long stretch of road I've been on many times before when I take the bus to school. I'm listening to my iPod and I see a pretty old cell phone on the ground. I pick it up and I'm surprised because it turns on and it works. Must have been a Nokia. A couple cars have passed me, and I'm starting to get a little anxious on how long it's going to take me to get home before my parents wake up. I think about what Gabe said about how if someone offered him a ride, he would have taken it. I decide that if someone stops and offers me a ride, I'll take it. I really don't want to be caught and grounded again. I'm not actively trying to hitchhike, putting my thumb out for a ride though. I'm carrying the phone and wondering if it has service, when an old beat-up car slows down next to me. I turn my head slightly as I'm walking, and an older man starts talking to me. "Do you want a ride?" he asks. I finally stop and take a closer look at him. He looks unkempt, hair starting to fall out, unshaven, and a bit on the heavy side. My stranger danger senses are tingling, but I told myself to stop being such a wuss. I need to get home and I'll just tell creepy car dude to drop me off at the casino, that I can see is about 3 miles away. I think that I'll at least shave off some time off my trek. I get in creepy guy's car and he starts driving. He asks me what my name is, how old I am. I give him my very common middle name and tell him I'm 18. I remember debating telling him my real age, thinking maybe it would make him think twice about doing anything funny with a minor. All of a sudden, creepy car dude puts his hand on my knee and tells me something about how beautiful I am. I'm frozen. I don't know how I'm supposed to react. I'm uncomfortable and alarms are going off in my head. I say, "Thank you." He starts to move his hand up a little more and we pass the casino. I tell him the casino is fine, really. He doesn't have to keep driving me. He tells me he's going to a specific road closer to my actual destination, and he doesn't mind helping me out. I think of anything to distract this guy and to get his nasty hand off me. I pull out the cell phone I found earlier and start talking animatedly. "Look what I found when I was walking. I found it right before you pulled over. It still looks like it works even. I wonder who it belonged to." I'm saying anything to keep myself from panicking and giving away that I'm scared. It works. Creepy car dude's eyes get bigger, like he's struck gold. He takes his hand off me to grab the phone. "Oh, I'll hold on to that for you. I'll make sure it gets back to its owner." I nod enthusiastically, agree that's what's best. He keeps the cell phone in his hand, checking it out. He drives past his initial road saying he can take me even closer to my place. I thank him profusely and act more bubbly, start talking about random nonsense. In reality, I'm still afraid of him knowing what road I live on. He finally gets to my driveway, which is about 200 feet or a little longer, with several different driveways you can pull into. You can't see my house from the end of the driveway. He pulls over on the road and says, "I'll just drop you off here. I think it's probably best that your parents don't see me dropping you off. Wouldn't want them to think anything." He winks. I smile and nod. I thank him. He mentions something about seeing each other around. Still smiling and nodding, I start walking up my driveway. I wait until he drives off to run up to my house. I'm amazed and so thankful that nothing happened to me. I really don't know what would have happened if I didn't happen to find that cell phone to distract him with. And I don't want to find out. I don't make stupid decisions like that anymore. I think I used all my lifetime luck to get out of that seemingly unharmed. So creepy car, dude. I hope I never see you again. I picked up a hitchhiker in the Rocky Mountains. I believe this was April 2018. I had gone to Colorado for a concert and was just driving around checking everything out before and after. The day before the concert, I'm driving through the Rockies because I thought it'd be cool, I guess. It was already probably 9 p.m. at this point. I get to a gas station and there's an old lady with a giant suitcase. I went inside, bought a pack of Swishers, got gas, and as I was leaving, she asked me for a ride. Being young and stupid, I said, "Sure, hop in, ma'am." Then she had me get her giant suitcase in my back seat and we were off. The ride started off pretty normal at first. Just talked about life. She did most of the talking, mostly about her kids and family. She claimed she was hitchhiking to Alaska for some insane reason I can't remember. Anyways, I had a joint that I decided to just give her and let her smoke while we were driving. Not sure why. Maybe to get her to shut up a little bit. Eventually, she asks if I want to try her weed, but keeps mentioning how it tastes funny, which was a red flag, so I politely said no. Then she started getting weird, talking about homeless camps where people smoke illegal substances. Then I actually got a good look at her and realized she was probably like a 40-year-old tweaker and not as old as I thought she was. Also, I think I saw an Adam's apple and that it could have been a dude. Yeah. Anywho, she starts pointing out the rest stop signs or whatever, which were like 100+ miles out, and was trying to convince me to go to one with her, and kept saying, "I don't have any money, but some people will have you suck their dick if you give them a ride." And at this point, I'm actually driving like a maniac in the middle of a pretty bad snowstorm at the time, in hopes that I'm more visible and noticeable to people if anything were to happen. I was terrified for my life, politely refusing all her sexual and drug-related advances. Finally, we get to a town on the opposite side of the Rockies from Denver, and I pull up to a gas station and say, "Okay, I gotta go back to Denver and get some sleep. I'm dropping you off here." All she said was,
"You're a very smart young man."
And I helped her unload the suitcase and left thanking God I was still breathing. If any of my actions are questioned, this was at a time in my life when I was particularly lost and not in a good mental state at all. I definitely shouldn't have been roaming Colorado by myself. I'm incredibly lucky